In the main, I caution against conflating immigration and crime. The data demonstrates that the two are not connected. Is the expectation of human dignity. While 2019 was not that long ago, you might remember the dynamic we were living in the late teens in this country, where you had the President of the United States speaking in the most vile terms about people who were foreign born.
So this is nothing short of evil, where you have the Democrat mayor of Athens, Georgia, trying to address the residents that are outraged and scared over the murder of a college student in their city, and he has the audacity to preface it with, "Don't blame immigration, blame what Donald Trump was saying in 2019, and then alludes to how the murderer should be treated with dignity." It's insane that these garbage politicians are still trying to gaslight the citizens instead of simply admitting our policies have failed, an innocent girl lost her life, and they're immediately going to fix the issues that pose a danger to the citizens. But no, the mayor is committed to the claims that Athens is not a sanctuary city.
This term sanctuary city doesn't have a sole legal or procedural definition. You can look in Georgia statute and you can find a clear definition for a unified government. You can look in contractual language and you can find out exactly what it means to be an SEC institution. Sanctuary city doesn't track with either of those. And so that term means different things to different people depending on the context of the discussion.
But back in 2019, he clearly stated that he would protect all undocumented people in the city.
And whereas our immigrant and undocumented neighbors, especially those of Latinx heritage, face daily fears and threats from individuals and institutions such as ICE, and that all people, including those without documentation, feel welcome and comfortable interacting with local law enforcement, their local government, and all services provided by such. And whereas we unflinchingly defend the human rights of all people, including citizens, non-citizens, and those without documentation.
Or even on his Twitter posts acknowledging the loss of Laken Riley, he couldn't help but add in a line at the end exonerating himself. "We are not a sanctuary city," despite the fact that the letter he read aloud in 2019 about how Orange Man Bad says they seemingly won't cooperate with ICE, they will protect those without documentation, and apparently even has it signed and dated. It's just disgusting top to bottom. One, not only that he's trying to use the "we do everything a sanctuary city does, but we never actually said sanctuary, so it's not my fault," but two, every step of the way with this tragedy that occurred in his city, he has to line it with "I'm not to blame, and here's why Orange Man Bad." It's just disgusting, so no wonder the citizens are distraught with him.
Depending on the context of the discussion.
We know what
Many-
it means.
Many of the elements.
Liar.
Many of the elements.
Liar.
Liar.
We're here to listen.
Liar.
You're a liar. You're a liar. You are guilty and got blood on your hands for this murder, sir.
Many of the aspects.
You need to resign.
Resign now.
Resign!
Resign now.
You allowed this to happen, sir.
Son, I'm going to ask you to leave.
You are lawless, Mr. Mayor.
I'll be glad to schedule some time with you if you'd like some individual time.
Yeah, I'd like to spend some time with you.
Let's do that.
Now I understand the mayor just wants this guy to stop interrupting him, and he thinks he'll be able to calmly address him later on. I just don't quite think the mayor wants to have a closed doors, one-on-one conversation with that angry citizen that legitimately blames him for a murder, to which I can almost guarantee they're not gonna let this guy get anywhere close to the mayor, because I understand this guy's outrage. Something terrible happened in his community, and the politicians seem to be protecting their political party over the people. As just 3 days ago, we covered how the Associated Press tried to bounce this from a migrant crime to the dangers of women jogging alone. But now, the New York Post came out with the most insane spin ever, saying he likely panicked when murdering her. Where they go on to write that he was met with resistance he wasn't expecting, as he's a disorganized offender that just did it spur of the moment, and since he's only 5'7", he was overwhelmed by her size and strengths. So not surprisingly, the author of that garbage has now deleted their social media, as I really don't know how or why, but it really looks like they wrote an article to try to gain compassion for a murderer. Because these statements look like they're from a criminal profiler, and they do have criminals of opportunity labels with insight as to why certain crimes go down specific ways. But there is absolutely zero reasoning for writing an article explaining how a college girl is able to surprise an adult male with her overwhelming size and strength. This article literally sounds like it was written by the guy's public defender, which he may not be the attorney assigned to the case, but he's definitely acting as his defender from the public. As we now know, he did indeed have a criminal history here.
Previously lived in New York City for over a year, but But in September, he was arrested and charged with child endangerment. And once the NYPD cut him loose, Abarro packed his things and headed south.
To which Biden campaigned on protecting serial offenders just like him.
You opposed sanctuary cities as a presidential candidate in 2007. Where do you stand now? Should undocumented immigrants arrested by local police be turned over to immigration officials?
No.
But since his story has gained national attention, apparently Biden has not even spoken to the family.
Corinne, has the president spoken to the family of Laken Hope Riley, the young Georgia student who was murdered allegedly at the hands of an undocumented immigrant?
So first of all, I do want to extend the president. I don't have anything regarding to the president speaking to the family, but it is heartbreaking. I can't even imagine.
Which is in stark contrast to how he addressed other widely publicized deaths.
To George's family and friends, Jill and I know the deep hole in your hearts when you bury a piece of your soul deep in this earth. We know you will never feel the same again.
Laken Hope Riley, the young Georgia student who was murdered allegedly at the hands.
As Wokeness calls out how little the left cares about your life when they can't fundraise or villainize the other side with it, where in the wake of a migrant murdering a U.S. citizen, Biden uses it to push his agenda.
And finally, my plan goes after the scourge of gun violence in America. And we beat the NRA when I signed the most significant gun safety law in nearly 30 years.
Where I commonly hear, two-way rights are women's rights. And although we don't know the exact situation, I really wonder what might have happened if Laken was carrying the day she was attacked. It might not have changed anything, but from what we do know, she tried to call 911, he's being charged with forcibly stopping a 911 call, and the city is now refusing to release the recordings to the public. We can't say for certain, but if your own mother, sister, girlfriend, or whoever was in her same situation, I don't know a single person that would hope they weren't lawfully carrying. And Biden is taking this moment to slowly push the envelope on making certain you won't be able to protect yourself ever. Where Wokeness again, just 4 days ago, called out how Laken Riley was not the first to become a victim of these open border policies. And 2 days later, another one arrested in connection to a murder in DC. In the same day, another one charged for horrendous crimes in Virginia. Same day, another one charged in Florida. The next day, another one charged in Louisiana. And tragically, I could make this video an hour long as these crimes are occurring everywhere across the country. But in even the most cut and dry example of these atrocities, the Democrat mayor takes the podium and just blames Trump's mean words in 2019 and just insists that he's not to blame. It's disgusting how these Democrats seemingly see all these victims of terrible crimes as an acceptable loss to the potential that these policies will bring them cheap labor and even cheaper votes. Now, one aspect of this I keep hearing but could never confirm is some of these countries are emptying out their prisons and giving them money to make it to the US, as keeping prisoners is incredibly expensive and nothing seems to consistently affect the recidivism rates. And as a lot of these migrant criminals do come from Venezuela, and back in 2023, Bloomberg reported Venezuela's violent death rate has fallen to a 22-year low, to which they believe it's due to the mass migration of criminals. Now, is this a conspiracy or just a coincidence? I don't know, but it's definitely happening, so why won't anybody actually in power address this? Because what are Democrat senators currently addressing?
With this urgent aid package, Congress has a chance to ensure Ukraine wins the war, to ensure Putin is not victorious.
As the DHS seems to still stand firm on not securing the border.
What Trump-era immigration policies have been banned, ended, reversed, and if any investigations are underway by you?
So we have rescinded so many Trump immigration policies, it would take so much time to list them.
And the migrants are well aware of this.
¿Quién es mejor para el inmigrante ilegal? ¿Donald Trump or Joe Biden?
Joe Biden. John Biden, de igual manera. John Biden. John Biden. Es el Joe Biden.
And honestly, I like doing concise, lighthearted commentary, but with stories like this, it's just distasteful to crack jokes between clips. But I actually think this is something that we need to talk about, as most normal people I know don't do deep dives through social media to see how even though the mayor says we don't have a sanctuary city, it looks like there's signed documents specifically promising his city will be a sanctuary for undocumented people. The media can sit around and blame Trump, jogging, or even short men, but it doesn't solve the issue. It doesn't protect your family, and if these civil servants don't make our security their priority, It's time to elect leaders at will. So if you appreciate my concise and sometimes lighthearted commentary on the tragic status of today's reality, hopefully I've earned your subscription, then go check out the video on how New York City imported third world levels of crime and the NYPD is responding with the tactical dance team.